The big question that all United fans are still asking is what sort of real true change can happen under Jim Ratcliffe with a 25% takeover if the Glazers still have majority control. What I'm going to do in this video is run through what looks like Manchester United's new structure that's emerging. Where does Dave Brailsford sit? How involved is Jim Ratcliffe going to be? What about Jean-Claude Blanc and Paul Mitchell? Who else stays and who leaves? Who's responsible for what? I'm going to run through everything that we know so far and take a look at sort of my interpretation of how I think this structural chart is going to be organised. Because this has been the key change that has never happened at our club. The John Murtough and Richard Arnold one was one we got excited about, but proved to be, let's be honest, just another shade of Ed Woodward. How and why will it be different this time? I'm going to try and answer some of those questions in this video. You can let me know what you think in the comments below, as you always do. But we can learn some lessons straight away by just taking a simple look across at Nice. And what is the structure at Nice? Now, under the INEOS ownership, you've got Jean-Pierre River, who is the old chairman, actually, who existed before the takeover happened. He's still there. You've got Francis Bocquet, who's the CEO, and alongside him, a sporting director. So, a CEO and a sporting director working underneath a chairman. And underneath there, you've got, of course, the manager, Francesco Farioli, Laurent Bessier, who is the sort of, kind of like the conditioning coach. And underneath there, you've got the academy director, you've got pre-formation director, which Titu Hasni. He's to do with sort of helping the kids get used to the sort of the rigors of being a professional and stuff like that. More like an academy sort of position, pre-formation, as it says there. That's the basic structure at Nice. And United have got a lot of that already. But there's a little interview that came out, I think it was today, actually, with Francesco Farioli, speaking about how he got the role, how he got the job itself at Nice, and sort of who he spoke to and in what order, because this will give us a little bit more of an inclination as to what the structure will be. He was saying that they made an analysis with data, and from the filter appeared some of the names, and I was one of the names, if I'm not wrong. It was in January, or not before. At the end of the season, when they changed a coach, I had my first interview with the sporting director, Florent Gisolfi, and then I spoke to Dave Brailsford. Then after that, I spoke to Jean-Claude Blanc, got the job, and then after that was when he met Jim Ratcliffe. So it was a sporting director, then fed through into Dave Brailsford, then fed through into the CEO. So what I'm going to be doing now is taking a look at how Manchester United's footballing structure has changed quite a lot over the last few years, and how a lot more change is coming, right? So you can go the whole way back here to see what the structure was looking like underneath Solskjaer. And yeah, a lot of those names are all gone now, including Ed Woodward, of course. And then this is kind of what we look like underneath Ralph Rangnick. These are from the Athletic. You have Richard Arnold there at the top. That's when we brought in John Murtough, and then we had Rangnick working alongside him as an interim manager. We had all the Sasha Lenze. Remember when he was brought in as a psychologist? We thought, oh, finally we're going to sort that. That didn't really work out. Anyway, a lot of that has now changed and gone, and we get to this situation, which is Manchester United's current football hierarchy. I say current, it's not completely up to date, because I get the pleasure of doing this, right? I get the pleasure of doing this. Get out of my club. And John Murtough will be following. Now, there are question marks around Darren Fletcher. There's question marks around Andy O'Boyle, Steve Brown, Alan Dawson, Simon Wells, Mick Court. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more questions I think you can say about whether or not these people are going to have futures inside Manchester United's new footballing hierarchy. But you can see what it is there. And what I have done now is I've drawn up how I see this new structure emerging. I'm not saying this is completely set in stone. Of course, it may well change. It may well not be completely correct. But this is just from all my research and everything I've done. This is what I think it's going to be looking like. This is what it is currently. And this is what I think it will look like. Now, let me explain it, because it's not completely finalised, this chart yet. At the top of this, you've got Joel Glazer and Jim Ratcliffe. We know full well that Manchester United are going to be working on a sort of footballing committee. All right? It's going to be the three people at the top. But Dave Brailsford is going to be, I've got him down as the chairman here. All right? Now, I might be wrong on the definition of what that is. But Dave Brailsford is going to be the man that sits in between Joel Glazer and Jim Ratcliffe. That's the footballing committee, the three men at the top, all right? They're going to be the ones that sort of are overall in control of our club. They're the ones that are going to have the three votes on the footballing side of things. And Man United will have Brailsford and Ratcliffe will have the majority there. But Dave Brailsford's going to be that sort of... I've put him down as a chairman, all right? He's going to be in charge of everything and far more involved on a day-to-day basis compared to Jean-Claude Blanc. Compared to Jim Ratcliffe. Jean-Claude Blanc is who will sit underneath him, and he is going to be the man in charge of the overall vision of this club, all right? That will be his task. His task is to make sure he writes down where Manchester United is going to be in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 3 years, and 5 years, and what is needed for all those to happen, which is like, for example, that's why I found this quote quite interesting here from Francesco Farioli. He's saying that, first of all, he sat down with Florent Gisolfi. So sat down with the sporting director who said, right, you know what? Is he going to be a good manager for us? And he thought, you know what? He is. So what happens then? He goes through and he sits down with Jean-Claude Blanc. He goes, okay, well, you've answered the questions about whether he's a good manager or not, but does he match the vision of our club? Does he align with all the things that I've got written down as CEO? Yeah, he does. Okay, good. Then he can go through the next. That's what happens. Actually, did he meet Brailsford after that? Yeah, he met Gisolfi, then he met Brailsford. Both of those agreed that, okay, good. Maybe I confused myself there because I've actually got Jean-Claude Blanc below Brailsford here, but he met Brailsford first. Brailsford is going to be the visionary leader, if you want to call it that. You can call it however you want. He is going to be the man tasked with the actual vision of the club and making sure that everything that Paul Mitchell does from a sporting director perspective ticks that box. Now, Paul Mitchell, of course, coming in and sitting above Erik ten Hag. The chain of command here is, I don't know whether it's just because I visualize it like it, but it feels a lot clearer than this. You got Erik ten Hag kind of sitting on the same, well, I don't know whether they just did this on purpose, but sitting on the same line as sort of John Murtough. Who's responsible for what? Well, Erik ten Hag was responsible for choosing our transfer target, so he still had a hell of a lot of power. But the chain of command here is very clear. Brailsford, Blanc into Brailsford, Mitchell into Blanc, and ten Hag into Mitchell. There shouldn't be too many conversations on a weekly basis, really, where ten Hag has got to speak to Jean-Claude Blanc, really, or speak to Dave Brailsford that much. He'll be speaking directly to Paul Mitchell. Paul Mitchell will therefore be in charge of all of these down here. Now, these names up here, right? These are all the existing members from this chart who I don't particularly think have any sort of guarantee of a role in the new organisation. Part of me would be surprised if, like, they all just got the boot. But, like, Darren Fletcher, for example, currently sits down there as a technical director. I don't know. I still don't really know what Darren Fletcher does. I think he started off as a bit of a coach at United and then kind of went into a technical director. As is the case in everything with Manchester United, it just seems complicated. It just seems convoluted. It's not clear. The roles are not clear. Responsibilities are not clear. And you can't sustain a business with that sort of lack of clarity. So I don't know whether Darren Fletcher is going to keep his role. He might just get pushed back into being more of a coach, maybe something in an academy position. I don't know. Andy O'Boyle, I personally think, gets the boot. I don't think Andy O'Boyle is going to keep his position. If John Murtough's going, then I think Andy O'Boyle goes too. And in terms of being Steve Brown being head of recruitment operations, what with Paul Mitchell being head of recruitment? Again, personal opinion, I'd be surprised if he kept his position. And Paul Mitchell's going to be doing both of these jobs, director of football operations and head of recruitment. I just don't see why those two people would keep their positions. Now, in terms of the actual chief scouts down there, I've got scouts down twice, actually. Probably need loads of scouts. You've got Mick Court and Simon Wells, who are two scouts who can see down here, senior scout and technical scout, that survived when we got rid of, Jim Lawler and Marcel Bout, right? So we halved our scouts in the build-up to Ten Hag coming in. Again, I wouldn't be surprised, if both of those were to get the boot. But maybe United are going to keep some of those in. I can only guess on that one. But I've got Ten Hag down here underneath Paul Mitchell, in line with Nick Cox, head of academy, going down into Justin Cochrane, who's the head of first team development, and that would be the link between the first team and the academy sides, and they will feed the information in to Erik ten Hag, but also Nick Cox with a direct line of communication to Paul Mitchell, because that's written that again, that ties into the vision of the club and all these things. Again, that's what a sporting director will do. That right there, oh, I don't know. I don't see where Darren Fletcher fits in. I'm going to leave him up there. I'm not necessarily saying he's going to get booted from the club. I just don't see, well, he won't be a technical director. I don't know what his role would be. But this overall spine of a chain of command here, let's focus on these 6 names here. Joel Glazer and Ratcliffe at the top. Joel Glazer there, he will have influence, but he shouldn't have control, because Ratcliffe and Brailsford will have the 2 of the 3 votes on that footballing committee, right? Dave Brailsford will be the man overall in charge of the processes. Is everybody doing their job properly? Great. If not, why not? He's going to be the man that makes sure all the wheels are turning, all right? The practical man in charge to make sure things operationally are running. Jean-Claude Blanc, as a CEO, of course, will do that too, but he will be in charge of the overall vision of the club, the overall vision of where we want to be in a few years' time and what we need to do to achieve and get there. Going back to what he did at Juventus and the concept of modernising that club and the stadium that got built. You're going to PSG and then obviously turning it into a branding behemoth, whatever you want to call it. PSG is a sort of a modern club in a modern era. And he was massively responsible for achieving that. How can that apply at Man United? He'll be in charge really of sort of the new stadium. And just these bigger overall concepts that are sort of above the position of sporting director, above the position of Paul Mitchell. He'll be in control of recruitment, of scouting, of data. He'll be in charge of making sure that Erik ten Hag has got the team he needs. And then Erik ten Hag, all he has to focus on is being the coach of one of the 3 biggest clubs in the world. But Ten Hag can then finally just sit there as a manager, and I put manager / head coach. And I think, you know what? I'm actually going to do this because I don't really want... That's what I want Ten Hag to be, the tracksuit head coach. And with this structure, it's far more of a chain of command to make that happen. I'm going to be really interested to see whether... I mean, I suppose that like the Athletic will likely do an updated one of this, right? Just how we've got these 3 here. The Athletic will release one. I wonder how far off it I will be with this. I think there's quite a few more names from this list that will be leaving, right? If I pull that up one more time, I personally think that John Murtough will follow Richard Arnold out the door. I don't think Darren Fletcher will really have a position. If he is, it's going to be completely reworked. Andy O'Boyle will be leaving. I don't see why or how Steve Brown or Alan Dawson is needed as a head of recruitment and head of football operations if both of those are getting replaced by Paul Mitchell. And then the scouts, big question marks over whether either of these 2 scouts will continue, given, let's be honest, how much we failed in the transfer window. But that's what I feel the structure is coming like. It is looking like it's going to be going towards. And that chain of command down the middle there will give Manchester United so much more structure from a footballing perspective, both in the short term, the medium term, and the long-term goals of the football, of the recruitment, and of the vision of the club. And all this thinking has been completely disconnected up until this point. And if Jim Ratcliffe's going to have any success in restructuring Manchester United's footballing operations, then this has to come in. And I don't need to tell him that. He knows it. And I actually trust him to do it. I just hope it works. But you can let me know what you think in the comments below. I think it is exciting times ahead for our club. I do. This doesn't feel like one of those false dawns compared to like when Richard Arnold came in or John Murtough came in. When I really did hope that the change could come, but ultimately it was still the Glazers in control. Now, the Glazers might still be in charge over all of the club, but they won't be in control of this footballing structure. Joel Glazer's just there. He's not... Oh, anyway, you can let me know what you think. All right? Like you always do.